when you really take a look at the toll on families, on the children's ability to get a good education, focus at school, and on the national healthcare spending, the reduction of instances of asthma just by building the homes green is enormous. So here's our call to action. For Enterprise, celebrating the successes of green communities, it's a wonderful feeling. We set bold goals and we met them, and we're very proud of your contribution and our work. But at the end of the day, it's about people. It's about the families that live in those communities. It's about communities being healthy and thriving. And I think everyone in this room, whether you are with the public sector, the private sector, the nonprofit sector, will agree with us that our work is not done. Having realized the data, knowing the quantifiable results, has now put the burden of not turning back on all of us. So we want to call on you to join us in this call to action that no new affordable housing in this country should be built again that's not green, and that within the next decade, all existing affordable housing should be retrofitted green. So we are committing ourselves and calling for all of us to respond to this national commitment to green all new and affordable housing by 2020. And with your help, I know we can make this aspiration a reality once more. So thank you.
All right, are we ready? Thanks, Doris. And next, to talk a little bit more about Enterprise's next generation of green communities and our commitment is Chief Executive Officer of Enterprise Community Investment, Charlie Werhane.
Thanks, Dana, and I want to thank everyone for being here today. You know, when I always come down to Washington, D.C., I'm amazed at the symbols that remind us of really what government can do and what it's here for. And you know, it's one of those things that whenever we get into things at Enterprise, we recognize that it's the governmental partners and our funders and the overall investment community and the thinkers that really focus on affordable housing that are here really to not only serve the residents but the developers in getting affordable housing built. But when you come here and you sit and you've got, this is the backdrop, it reminds you that all those things have to come together in a lot of cases to make it take place. And my hat's off to a lot of the people that are in this room here today and others that aren't. And everyone from Enterprise here, let's give them a big hand for everything they've done to make things happen so far and in the future. You've heard the background on Enterprise Green Communities, its original modest launch, and now its bold ambition. You've also heard highlights of our new study, a study that validates and exceeds early projections about the cost effectiveness of meeting the Enterprise Green Communities criteria. And now it's my privilege to tell you what comes next. We have come a very long way since 2004 and that initial $500 million commitment. And the developers all across the country who have enthusiastically embraced and met the criteria have made this a reality. They have shown that the criteria are a smart, successful, and cost-effective tool. And it's now up to all of us to press the advantage and scale up our efforts with unprecedented speed and innovation. That push forward to new heights begins right now here in this room in the Capitol. I am pleased to announce that Enterprise is standing behind our national call to action with a $4 billion commitment over the next 5 years to continue to transform affordable housing across the nation. By 2013, we want everything that Enterprise touches, including our facilities, to be 100% green. It marks one of the largest private investments in green affordable housing in history. Together, we are building a platform to continue to transform the affordable housing industry as we know it today. And we are urgently pushing our public and private partners to come along with us. We can measure our strides by counting the number of green affordable homes that we've built and preserved, by adding up the total dollar amount of grants and loans and capital directed to the greening of affordable communities, and by tracking the new policies that are passed and championed by housing agencies and elected officials at every level of government. But as Doris has underscored, the force behind our $4 billion commitment and our national call to action is to make all new and existing affordable housing green by 2020. The stories we hear from our partners on the ground are the ones that really pull us in this direction. Stories like the one of the Alhagi family in Portland, Oregon, who once held their daughters because of their asthma problems in their unsustainable housing. And like most families, all they ever wanted was to provide for their children and build them a bright future. So they searched endlessly for a decent home that they could afford, one without mold growing on the walls and with utility costs that they could pay, while still providing basic necessities like health care and nutritious food. They found such a home at Olison Woods, an Enterprise Green Communities development situated around a preserved and greatly enhanced wetland. Mrs. Alhagi is full of gratitude for her family's new home and great relief that our children no longer suffer from asthma. Instead, they are healthy and thriving since moving to Olison Woods. Theirs is just one of many moving and remarkable stories that we hear from the development community as well as from the residents that are living in the units today. A generation ago, my two children grew up knowing it was wrong to litter and smart to close the refrigerator door. But protecting our environment and the overall health of our planet was not totally front and center. The nation was dealing with other issues, a recession, periods of inflation, and the end of a war. But we began to pay attention because we had to. So my two young grandchildren and a third one on the way will learn from these lessons, and so much more as a result. For them, living sustainably will not be a badge of correctness, but an expectation. For their children, it will simply be a way of life. That is our hope. And that is why we've invested so much talent, so many resources, and 2 decades of innovation and leadership into building enterprise green communities. And today, we embark on the next generation of enterprise green communities for every generation. So thank you for listening to me. I appreciate you being here today. And come with us on the next generation of enterprise green communities. Thank you.
The next generation, for every generation. Thanks, Charlie. It's truly a bold and inspirational commitment, and as Doris mentioned, just would not be possible without all of you in the room joining us on this journey together. And so it's my pleasure to invite Roger Platt to come up, who is the Senior Vice President at the United States Green Building Council, to really talk about how we're going to sustain this work through policy and addressing social equity together. Thank you.
Boy, I love this organization, the Enterprise Foundation. It's able to think big, and what they're doing in this case is something that will prove out ideas, which will be replicable, which will allow for the financial institutions also to see the opportunities that are here. So their way of thinking, and their way of thinking starting with a private sector initiative and then bringing, the HUD secretaries here, for God's sake. I mean, they are, and the deputy EPA administrator, I mean, which is by itself a wonderful marriage and a sign that our president also really gets it about the relationship between housing and environment. But really, Enterprise has been an extraordinary catalyst, and a catalyst that's bringing together the environmental community and the for-profit and the not-for-profit housing community. And again, they're doing it by thinking big and by making large-scale investments and getting other folks to make large-scale investments. What I also like is that they're thinking also about people. And when we think about the issue of green, affordable housing, for all the charm and benefits of skyscrapers that are built green, this is a very, very, very different issue. We're talking about yoking the environmental benefits, which Ashok Gupta from NRDC will tell you about, to the real kitchen table economic benefits of being able to save money on your utility bill, being able to save money on the transportation costs instead of having to commute a great distance, being near transit. Again, something that Enterprise has long understood, way back to their founder with Mr. Rouse, and this, again, vision for people being able to live in communities that really had a sense of community.